Welcome to the Determined People podcast. If it's inspiration you're looking for, then you're in the right place. This show is committed to bringing encouragement, strength, and hope to a desperate, divided world. Our stories are focused on people who refuse to give up, even when everything in them said quit. We hope you find yourself in these stories and say, if that person made it, maybe I can too. Now, today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I am committed to spreading encouragement, strength, and hope to a world in desperate need of those things. No one needs hope and encouragement more than a parent who is dealing with a finicky child, especially at mealtime. Mealtime can sometimes become a battleground, and that's not what it's supposed to be. My guest today may offer you some insight, and I believe she'll give you some hope, because there is hope in that world. Amy Thompson is a pediatric occupational therapist, a feeding specialist, a mother of 3, and the founder of Little Table of Grace. Welcome, Amy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dig right in, as we say at dinner time.
Yes, let's do it.
So how did you get involved in pediatric occupational therapy?
Yeah,
How'd you find your specialty?
I've been practicing a little over 20 years, but that time frame ago, I nannied for a family that had a little boy on the autism spectrum. And so as his nanny, I would take him to different therapies, and I learned about that world, and I found out what occupational therapy was. And so that kind of opened the doorway for me following that path, and it just kept going. I got my master's in occupational therapy, and then I always knew I wanted to work with kids. So then I went into pediatrics, and then became more of a specialist in pediatric feeding disorders.
Working with kids, you don't have any gray hair. So my I had two sons, they're 32 and 30, their teenage years did this to
Yes,
me.
I'm sure. I have 2 girls that are going on their teenage years, so.
I'll pray for you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about some misconceptions about picky eaters or finicky. I mean, I told you before we started, I was a finicky eater as a child, and I did outgrow it. And that that's one of the misconceptions also. When do you say, okay, someone's just a picky eater versus when a red flag goes up? What's the distinction? Yeah,
that's a great question. So picky eating can be a typical phase, but usually, a child would outgrow it within, 6 months or so. And it's not creating huge anxiety for them or the family. But if a child is not outgrowing picky eating after 6 months, it's creating extreme anxiety, meltdowns at the mealtime table. And there's a lot of other red flags, but that is when you kind of know that it's a little bit more than just typical picky eating, and there might be some root underlying causes that, families would need support with.
Sure. When you start a new client relationship, what does someone expect working with you?
Yeah, well, I think first of all is that rapport. I mean, I'm a mom and I have kids, obviously I have kids, but when you're working with someone, with your child, you want to have that trust and know that they're looking out for your child's best interest. So, that's something that's incredibly important to me, is for a family to build trust in me. And when I'm working with a child, that child builds rapport with me. So that's kind of the first, I think, one of the most important things, because once there is trust, then you can kind of open that doorway to work on our goals and make improvements.
What about the parents? Because, if a parent feels like mealtime is going to be a stressful thing, they're going to carry that inside. They may be putting on a game face, but a kid's going to pick up on that. How do you help a parent manage through that?
Yes, and that's very true. Children who are truly struggling with extreme picky eating or feeding disorders such as ARFID, and there's a lot of root causes to this, families are incredibly stressed, and parents carry worry and anxiety. They know something's wrong. They know their child's struggling, but they usually don't quite know why. So one of the first things I do is just help the parent know, one, they're not alone. I work with families all the time who are truly struggling with this, and there's so much that can be done to help improve this and to help kind of change the direction. So just kind of giving them hope. And I am an expert in this field. I've spent 20 years practicing and my education, and I want to let them know that they can trust me and I know what I'm doing.
Sure. Well, obviously it fulfills you, because you don't stick with something 20 years if you're not getting a lot of fulfillment and results. You mentioned ARFID. That was something I learned about by studying your website and then researching it on the web. Tell us about avoidant, restrictive food and intake disorder. I hate the word disorder.
I know, I do too, actually.
Because it's sort of a label.
Yep.
and I don't like labels.
Yes.
But tell us about ARFID.
Yeah, so there's a range of picky eating, and extreme picky eating and ARFID are kind of on that very extreme range. But with ARFID, usually there's some sensory sensitivities, avoidance, anxiety, nutrition can start to become a concern, and it's just it's the very extreme side. So a lot of kiddos who I work with who might be struggling with ARFID, they might eat less than 5 foods. If a new food is presented to them, their little nervous systems go into fight or flight, and they may not even be able to tolerate a new food in the room because it creates so much anxiety. So it really, yes. And so it's just kind of that extreme severe side, and it creates chaos and for the child, but also the family, because mealtimes are supposed to be a time of enjoyment and enjoying food and enjoying family. So yes, ARFID is just kind of more of an extreme side of picky eating. But once again, there's hope. There's so many things that we can do to turn that around.
You mentioned the fight or flight. The limbic system should not be going off at dinner time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But I learned something here.
Yep. And
I'm speechless.
I love how you said that, because sometimes we as adults, we might not understand or have knowledge on what ARFID is. So we might think a child is being strong-willed or defiant or stubborn. But truly, these kiddos, they can't help how they're reacting. There's root causes, and their nervous system is going into fight or flight and anxiety, and their little sensory systems are on overload to where, something like you and I, we may love to see some nachos, right? But to a child, that might send them into such fight or flight that is repulsive to them, literally. So it's a true struggle.
If you have any nachos, whip them out right.
I know, me too. I'm all about some Mexican food.
I love nachos. Yeah, I wish I'd kept some of those foods at bay, but oh well. The battle of the bulge is a continual battle for me. Let's talk about a couple of behaviors. Like what do you think about bribing kids? Like, if you eat this or clean your plate is what I always grew up with, you get dessert.
Yeah.
I mean, what is wrong about that?
Yes, I love this question. So we as parents, I feel like we've all bribed our kids to eat something, right? And for some kids, it might work in that moment and very short term. But kiddos who are truly struggling with picky eating or extreme picky eating, it actually backfires, because when they're forced to eat something that they are truly dysregulated about, it creates more anxiety. Their walls go up more. They create more rigidity and more rules. So it backfires. And families that I work with will try to bribe, but that bribe goes up, right? And they can't keep up with it. Or, a child might take a teeny tiny nibble of a broccoli once, but never again, because they gagged or vomited or, whatever that reaction could be. And that's going the wrong way, right? And then it's even more resistance to try that broccoli again down the road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Can't fault them for that one. I do like broccoli. I'm kidding, but there's some things like Brussels sprouts. You could deep fry those things in chocolate and cover them with tequila, and I'm still not.
Yeah, you're not doing it.
Yeah, they become fashionable. I'm not that crazy about them. What about a parent who throws in the towel? They may feel like they're a failure because they're not getting the child to eat, and they fall into the trap of making their child their favorite meal. What everybody eats, whatever they prepare for everyone else.
Yes. So I would say families that I work with, I almost want to say like 100%, 99.9%, the families are in that state. They've tried to help their extreme picky eater, nothing's working, so they fall into the trap of making that one child a separate meal versus the rest of their family. And it's exhausting. But usually what I tell families is they had to do that because they didn't know what else to do, right? And they're trying to not have this huge chaotic mealtime. And we as parents come home exhausted. We might be working or whatever that is. But even if a family is in that state where they're short-order cooking and making separate meals, that's what I help families with, is how to set routine and structure around mealtime so we get out of that and we work towards having a family mealtime where a parent is cooking one meal for the whole family. But you have to be strategic with an extreme picky eater because they're not going to initially eat the same foods the entire family's eating. Yes.
So you teach patience also.
Yes, exactly.
That's
There's a lot of
a
patience
little
with
table
this.
of grace. We've got the big table of grace
Yes.
in your dining room, right? But I mean, and I look at the family dynamics and the society and culture nowadays. 50% of families are divorced families.
Mm-hmm.
80% of kids, there's 25 million kids who are being raised by a single parent, and 80% of those are being raised by a mom. We're stressed to a maximum, and kids have so many activities. We got to get them to band practice or to soccer or lacrosse or football or whatever.
Yes.
So I get that families sometimes will just throw in the towel and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to turn into a battleground all
Yep.
the time. You want to have as many pleasant moments in family life as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
You encourage families to like have at least one day per week where they have a meal together.
Yes. So again, a lot of families I work with, because of the extremeness of the picky eating, they're not even eating they're not even eating meals together, because some kids can't even be at the same table with with the parent or siblings' food.
Really?
So sometimes we have
That's
to work.
an example of ARFID?
That could be an example of ARFID or extreme picky eating, a kiddo with sensory sensitivities. So for example, say, I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit, but a kiddo who might have extreme sensory sensitivities to the smell of food or the way a food looks, they can't even come to the table because they're such in a pattern of anxiety and worry.
Wow.
So, but going back to your question, yes, the ultimate goal is to encourage family meal times 100%, where the family is coming together at the table, eating together, building that bond, that parent-child sibling relationship. But sometimes it's a process to work there. And usually what I say is trying to start with at least one meal a week, because a lot of times that's really hard for families, which is hard to believe, but it is true. And then over time, working towards slowly increasing that to more and more times per week to where it becomes just more natural.
Sure. Is it helpful or does it do any good at all to get a child involved in meal prep?
Yes, it's incredibly helpful. So not only is it helping like with bonding with the parent and the child and having a positive mealtime experience, which is important, but when you're working with kiddos who are struggling with anxiety or sensory sensitivities, looking at new foods or scooping, interacting with new foods or touching, washing new foods, that's helping to desensitize them so that you're working towards eating that new food. It's a complete process, but sometimes kiddos have to get used to first, again, looking, interacting, touching, smelling, tasting. All these little steps have to happen until they can get towards eating new foods. So meal prep is incredibly important.
That's really cool. Plus you're doing something together.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is invaluable.
It
You
is.
can't even put a price tag on it.
Yes.
Going back to the parents, my youngest child had colic. And if you had a child with colic, it's awful.
Yes.
Awful. But it came on just like that. And it went away in about 2.5 months, just like that.
Yeah.
Just stopped.
Yes.
And I kept thinking, it's going to come back.
Yep.
Because you have so many raw nerves from that experience with a child who cries.
Yes.
Always at night and just hours on end.
Yep.
What about a parent who all of a sudden has a breakthrough with a child? How do you help them manage their stress that they're not going to go, the child's not going to go backwards?
Yes, I love that. Well, it's because they now have the tools. So even if something happens where their child kind of gets a little anxious or, there's a food that their child's really struggling with, or they kind of backtrack on the routines and structure around meal times, when I'm working with families, they know exactly what to do. And you continue to just establish these like consistent practices day in and day out over time, and then you're moving forward. But they, even if there is a little bit of a backslide, if something were to happen, like say a kiddo ate a new food and maybe gagged, and then that created more anxiety and they became more rigid in these rules around food. Well, we know exactly how to just meet the child where they're at, respect their feeding cues, and then move forward again. So, yeah.
That's very good. It's a very gentle approach.
Yes.
Which is, with children, they're learning.
Yes.
So you've got to kind of nudge them along gently.
Exactly.
Not put too much pressure, but it needs a little bit of pressure.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So, some of the stuff that kids are eating today is just crap. Childhood obesity is off the charts and it's getting worse. 30 to 40%, I've got to read this, I want to get it right. 30 to 40% of kids already have a chronic disease by the time they reach 21 years old.
Wow.
In your opinion, how much of this is actually due to nutrition or lack of?
Yes. So I think nutrition is incredibly important. Just with my profession, but also personally and as a mom, it is, nutrition helps with, everything, immunity, cognition, learning, all the things. So yes, nutrition is very important. One thing with the families I work with, because usually families are very worried about nutrition and they have a lot of guilt around the foods they feed their child because it's all they'll eat. So there's a lot of anxiety or shame even that a parent's carrying because they feel like their child is eating horrible foods. And so when I'm working with families, the goal is always improve nutrition, but also letting the parent know, like, you're doing the best you can do in this moment. And we have to kind of start with maybe some of these not as healthy foods and slowly change them and work towards more healthy foods. But that's, talking about kiddos who are truly struggling. But yes, I think when families are able to sit together at a mealtime table, there's a little bit probably an increased chance of providing increased nutrition. But that is one thing. I dive deep into nutrition about the importance of, limiting sugar, proteins, grains, fruits, and vegetables, working towards less processed foods. So nutrition is a huge thing for me.
Yes.
Personally and professionally.
And the one thing that just drives me crazy is watching kids sitting at dinner, either out at a restaurant or at home,
Yes.
with a screen in front
Yes.
of them.
Yes.
Would you talk about that?
Yes. Okay. So,
You're excited. Yes.
yeah, well, this is a big topic.
Yes.
Yes, sometimes I think screens are overused. I'll kind of step out of my professional talk, so kind of personally. Like, we as parents, sometimes, I've done it myself, overuse a screen, even at restaurants, to kind of keep the peace, right? But I do, it can be overused where it doesn't have to be that way. Now, within the population that I work with, sometimes kiddos are so dependent on screens that they cannot eat without it.
Really?
Really. So one thing I will work on with families is strategies to wean. We literally call it like weaning screen time. But some kids who are so dependent on that screen to eat, if we were to take away the screen, they literally could stop eating. And I've worked with many kiddos like that because the screen is just something that it's a coping mechanism to kind of get them through the meal. But absolutely, my goal is to always wean the screen again so that we can be screen-free, present, enjoying our meal times with our family, eating nutritious foods. But sometimes kiddos who are truly struggling, even that is a process.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I know.
I did not know that. I'm taking this away. I'm not going to eat. Yes, you will. And it shouldn't be a battleground.
Yeah.
We like for it to be like what we see from Hollywood, but that's scripted.
Yes.
That's scripted.
Exactly.
Most family life is chaos, right? Controlled chaos.
Yep, that is a good description.
What do you think
Controlled
about
chaos.
I was thinking this through today. What do you think about this? Where I read some piece where it's like mom turns into a short order cook or makes whatever. What about one night a month where mom is or dad is a short order cook? You get to pick whatever you want to eat, right?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Like as telling the kid, you get to pick whatever you want to eat?
Everybody in the family, yeah. Dad, you get what you want. Brother, you get what you want.
And
Sister,
then that night, there's all these different meals being made.
Yeah.
Honestly, I like that idea because even though, kiddos that I work with are very rigid, right? We're trying to teach them flexibility, okay? And what you just described, that could kind of teach them flexibility, that we don't always have to be rigid and have these rules every night, that sometimes we can do things anyways, So honestly, I think that would be fun, and I think the kids would think that would be fun.
Sure.
And then that would help to promote this flexibility that we're working on.
Some of the single parents that are watching this are probably, he just said what?
Yeah, I know. No.
I have people protesting outside my home. So let's have some fun here.
Let's do it.
What does your refrigerator and your pantry look like?
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks to my middle daughter, it's organized because she loves to organize things. Okay. So pantry looks like, honestly, it's a mix. Like there's processed foods in there and there's healthy foods. And I always try to do a balance, but there's definitely, I have a elementary age kiddo, a middle school kiddo, and a high school kiddo. So in my pantry, I have some healthy, like protein bars. My oldest daughter is into golf, so we're trying to work on her having increased protein to help her with her sports. I have goldfish in there. I have,
You do?
I do. And it's not something I want to do every day, but it's also something I know my kids enjoy. And honestly, it's easy sometimes. I mean, I am a single mom of 3. And so I struggle a lot with feeling overwhelmed with meal times and snacks and lunches. And so sometimes that's a little bit easier, but I try to balance it with fruits and protein and yogurts and healthy foods. And that way also I'm not like labeling this as a bad food, just kind of like making foods more neutral, but helping my kiddos to learn what are good nutrition choices. In my fridge, I honestly have a lot of fruits. My kiddos struggle with eating vegetables. I love vegetables. I have some vegetables. I have like Greek yogurts. I have pre-packaged meals for dinner because I struggle with cooking when I get home from work, just with time and sports. So yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
So you take a commonsensical approach. It's not like, man, your kids get to school. Oh man, mom gave us carrot and celery sticks again.
Yes. Yes.
Use some common sense and and you almost can't avoid processed foods today. You almost cannot.
It's hard. I personally have tried to eliminate processed foods before. And even for myself as an adult, it was incredibly hard. So yes, for parents, I mean, that is a lot of parents' goal, but it's incredibly hard nowadays. Absolutely.
What are the most fulfilling parts of your career?
Oh, I do. I love what I do. Most fulfilling parts would be just watching a child who has truly struggled. And mealtime, they hated meal times. Some kids I've worked with, meal times would trigger gagging or vomiting. I mean, just extreme anxiety. And then over time working together, you're watching them love meals and eat with their family and provide their bodies the nutrition it needs to grow and thrive. What I do is incredibly fulfilling. And, I work with typically developing kids, but I also have worked with many kiddos on the autism spectrum or kiddos who might struggle with sensory sensitivities or anxiety. And just watching them thrive in an area that has been so hard, but also the families. And I relate as a mom. Just watching the moms have less worry and anxiety. And I love what I do.
It shows. And plus, you have so many 5-star reviews, 5 out of 5 stars.
Thank you.
And I was going to bring one on and read it, but they're so long. I don't think we have enough digital space for them, but there's tons of them. And I think that's a great testament to what you're doing and your effectiveness and how you're changing lives. And I think that is fulfilling. It is fulfilling. Even when things are tough, it keeps you going.
Yes.
Give us a specific success story.
Well, actually, I just had a mom who I adore. I adore this family. She just texted me 2 days ago, and her daughter, at the time when I was working with her daughter, she was probably 4 or 5, and just extreme picky eating, ate less, oh gosh, for sure I would say less than 5 foods, would eat pasta raw, like before it was cooked, because when we cooked it, sensory wise, that texture, the mushiness and the wetness was too repulsive. A very limited diet. Mom was incredibly concerned about nutrition. We would first just have to play with food, with certain foods, because, the idea of those foods coming anywhere towards her mouth, I mean, she just wouldn't, right? The child would just shut down, and you can't, there's not going to be a battle, because the battle will never be won by the parent. Usually the child will just shut down and refuse. Yeah. So this mom sent me a text the other day of her daughter eating this big bowl of pasta, cooked, and it was squiggly and, everything. And the little girl took it up, and it was all hanging from her mouth, and she was laughing. And the mom texted me saying, I cried today because look how far my daughter has come. Yeah. And I got a little teary-eyed, because I don't think families really realize how stressful and how severe some of these feeding challenges can be.
Mm-hmm. So, we don't have time to go into all of it, but you mentioned autistic children.
Uh-huh.
Autistic kids and adults are just fascinating to me.
Mm.
Absolutely fascinating. It's like with Rain Man, you know.
Yes.
All of his recall and everything, his ability to count the toothpicks. We all have that in our minds.
Mhm.
They just know the route to get there.
Yep.
And it fascinates me. The human
Yes.
mind just is mind blowing. But you're really, in a way, reprogramming the mind, and it shows as a new approach to food. Like the little girl who I can't imagine eating raw
Right.
pasta.
Yeah.
Talk about a choking hazard.
Yeah.
Then she's enjoying it and having
Yeah.
fun with it.
Yes.
That's got to be, yeah, I can see
Yes.
why you get teary-eyed on that
Yes,
one. And the mom,
absolutely. And
too.
you build a relationship with these kids and these families, and yes.
Yeah, our children need guidance, and your gentle approach is effective, and it comes through in just sitting here talking with you. Let me ask you this: is there anything else you'd like to say
Mhm.
that we didn't cover today? You want to talk about something called Flip 7? What is that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So more recently, I found something called Flip My Life. And it's a nutritional company that has protein powders. They actually came out with several new product lines, like a prebiotic drink mix, but also really new. They just came out with like more of a kids line that you can pour into water or a drink, and it's just good nutrition and vitamins and minerals. But I recently discovered them, well, maybe a year ago actually, and I personally love it. I typically drink a smoothie a day, and it just helps me with my nutrition and maintaining my goals. I love this product line and the company and the people behind it. But it's also been incredible for families I work with because it's a very nutritional protein shake mix that families of picky eaters who are usually worried about nutrition, you can put it in smoothies, you can put it in muffins, pancakes, baked
Really?
goods, and it just helps give picky eaters a little boost of nutrition. Yes, I love that line.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. And they can order that through you?
Yes, you are. Well, actually, on my Instagram page, yes, there's a link where you can go and order that through me.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll put
I'm pretty sure it's
Instagram.
flipmylife.com.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll put your Instagram and also your website up on the
Awesome. Thank you.
on the YouTube, so people can get in touch with you.
Awesome.
Do you do like complimentary coaching calls or introductory calls? I guess
Yes.
is a better way to
So any family that is interested with working with me, they get a 30-minute, I call it like a discovery call where they can call, well, it's a virtual Zoom meeting. They can get to know me a little bit better, ask me questions. We'll talk more about their child and, the services that I offer. And then the family can decide if it's a good fit with working with me. And if so, we get started and kind of go down a path of working towards their goals of overcoming extreme picky. Actually, let me backtrack. It doesn't have to be extreme picky eating.
Okay.
I work with families anywhere along that continuum.
Sure.
Yes, and then we get started and work towards making changes.
That's great.
Yes.
You're a busy girl.
I am, yes.
You're a very busy girl, and being a mom as well.
Yes.
There's a lot there. So, thank you for coming on. One last question.
Yes.
And that's about your legacy. I mean, how do you want to be remembered?
Ooh, gosh, I don't know if I've had anyone ask me that. I want to be remembered, the most important thing I do is being a mom. Sure. But just being a kind, honest, good person that cares about others and brings an energy about that just helps to lift other people up. And professionally, it's just helping other people. I've always, I remember since I was a little girl, I always wanted to do something that helped others. But yeah, just a legacy of being there for others and helping build them up.
That's great. Helping others is such a flip from flipping the script so much of today's society where it's all about me.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
I wish you every success in the world in the future. So thank you again for taking the time to come on today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Great. And that's our show for today. And I hope that you will contact Amy if you have a difficult eater. Just make the phone call, get on the Zoom with her, and see if it's something that's a good fit. And I think you'll find her gentle approach to helping parents, help children, help them with nutrition is going to make a huge difference, and not make mealtime a battle battleground. It should be it should be one of the most pleasant times of family time, because family time is chaos. So thank you for watching today. I will be back on the audio broadcast tomorrow with another 1-minute message of encouragement, strength, and hope. Until then, everyone, be well.